On August 27th, we are doing a new moon in Virgo, and this is making an exact square to Mars. And while Mars is the planet of action and you can get a lot done, it is also a point where you could find enormous irritation, frustration, and really feel like you want to just break through. And that's what we're going to talk about. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon. It's at 4 degrees of Virgo. It's making an exact square to Mars in Gemini, and we are going to do a short overview, and then we're going to go sign by sign. Hi. Are you here to visit, everyone? So it's the new moon, which means over the next 2 weeks, you have an opportunity to start new projects and new things, and you get the added energy of Virgo. And so let's talk about what Virgo really means. So the sign of Virgo is mutable earth. And so mutable meaning that it's changeable or that it can adapt, and then earth meaning practical. So the other earth signs are Taurus and Capricorn, and the other mutable signs are Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And so Virgo is mutable earth. So when we think about earth signs, we're thinking about earth itself, so like rocks or mountains, but Virgo's more like sand. It's the rocks in their smallest component, and this means that we're thinking about it at the smallest level. And this is why the sign of Virgo is so much associated with organization. Now, it's also about mutability, and that is to adapt or change things. And so it's about taking a list of things to do and putting them in the right order, or taking a system and incrementally making it better. So you may have the goal of making $1 million, but the Virgo energy is what you're going to do in the next 5 minutes that is the highest priority and the most effective in order for you to reach that goal. Now, this new moon is making an exact square to Mars in Gemini. Now, Gemini is mutable air, and so mutable, again, is about being flexible, about having lots of options, and air is about communication and information. And so what we have with Gemini is this energy of kind of like being a radio, where you have access to so much information from all different sources, but also you have other things that are outside of the thing that you're wanting to do. And so this is, again, if we look at that example, you want to make $1 million, and so the Virgo energy is what you're going to do in the next 5 minutes to help you achieve that goal. The Mars in Gemini is also that the kids are screaming, that your boss wants the report, your spouse wants to have dinner. It is all of those other things that are pulling at you in different directions. So then we talk about it as a square. And that is a type of aspect that we use in astrology to explain how two planets are conversing with each other. And so you've heard me talk about all different types of aspects, so I thought we would look more deeply at the square. So oftentimes we astrologers say a square is forced action, but there was an astrologer I knew, Arthur Chadbourne, and what he would say is, if your friend needed a wedding cake and you called up the place and the bakery and you placed the order, but you get there and they've done the cake wrong, they want to charge you anyway, basically the square energy is you have to fight with them because you have to get a great cake for your friend. You can't pay for something that was wrong. And so the square energy is this combative sort of energy where you have to deal with something right in the moment. So when we combine all this together, which is the Virgo part of you that really wants to do things correctly, wants to do them in the right order, and wants to look at each component and say, is this necessary? Is this the best way to do it? And that is making a square to the Mars, which is saying, that you also have one other million things to do, and they are pulling you in different directions. And so you're trying to juggle things while doing something perfectly. And this is where the stress and we will say frustration or even anger comes in. So this means that the people around you may have outbursts of emotion. It means that you might be feeling very irritable. You might be frustrated that somebody who promised you something at a certain time is not delivering, or that the thing that you have in front of you just broke and now you have to fix it and you didn't schedule time for that. So there is an ability to get a lot done with this aspect, but it is also can be very frustrating. Now, the interesting thing about this aspect is we're going to end up focusing on that Mars, which is the distractions, whereas that new moon is actually telling us what we need to focus on. And so as we go sign by sign, we'll be looking at that in more detail. But as you are on your spiritual journey and you are learning more about yourself, the question that you want to ask yourself over the next 2 weeks is, what is making me so frustrated? What am I really mad about? What is underneath this frustrating situation that I can heal or that I can deal with? Okay, we're about to go sign by sign, but before we do, I just wanted to say that we are doing tropical Western astrology, that if you know your rising sign, you want to listen to that. That will tell you more about what's happening to you. If you are listening to your sun sign, this is more about your attitudes or different ways that you can grow during this period. I also can send you a copy of your chart if you need one, and so just email me with your birth information and I'll send you a PDF. I also write books. I write columns for horoscope.com and astrology.com, and I finally finished my tarot program. That program is up. It is at a super low price right now because I want to get people excited about it. But that price will be going up in the future, so I hope you check that out. There is a link in the description. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, you guys are doing this new moon in your 6th house of health, well-being, routines, work, co-workers, and it's making that square to Mars in your house of communication, siblings, and neighbors. And so what's happening is that the frustrations seem to be coming from communication, like people not calling you back or people not getting back to you quick enough, or maybe there's some disruption with a neighbor. Maybe you are arguing with a sibling. But what the real thing is, where the source of the actual problem is in that area of routines for you, and how maybe you're falling behind in some areas because you were procrastinating, or you don't have a good system, or you haven't automated something that could be automated, or you are doing something that could be eliminated, or that you are extra tired because you haven't been taking care of yourself, or that you are finding that the systems in your work are not strong enough. So this is where to focus your energy and to say that these other things are external at the moment. And so look at what is going on with your own systems, because as you change those, others around you will magically change. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, the sun is making a square to Mars, and so there is major opportunities. Venus is in this house, and so there is this energy of finding someone you're attracted to, they're attracted to you, that you can make a real connection. So you definitely want to focus on how you can communicate with somebody who maybe is interested in you, but you haven't actually met yet, or maybe that someone has said they will fix you up. Maybe you need to pressure them a little bit to get that date set up. So you have some very good energy at this time. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mars is not making an aspect with Venus, though Mercury is there. So we see some communication happening, but that it's more seems like surface communication at this time. Maybe you are discussing routines, chores and things going on around the house, but not really getting into the nitty-gritty of the relationship. So if you were looking to try to move this relationship forward at this time, the energy's not lining up. So just put that off for another 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to home and family, the moon is making a square to Mars, and so there's a great deal of activity going on. And this makes sense because the focus of this new moon is on your routines, and a lot of routines take place at home, especially if you're working at home. So there is probably some cooperation that you need from family members. And when you're doing a square, there is some sort of response that happens from what you do. And that's why I said earlier that if you make a change, that other people around you seem to magically change. That is the process of a square. When you do something different, the other people need to react. And of course, this works the other way. When they do something, you feel compelled to react. And so we see a great deal of activity going on. And to make that constructive, then you need to steer the ship on what procedures or routines you're changing at home. And that will help everybody else, kind of get to a place where they're being more cooperative and helpful rather than seeming to fight you every step of the way. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus, which is going through your house of creativity as well as risky investments. We'll talk about that in a second. But most of this is about being creative and being curious about new ideas or things that are kind of coming across your path. And so that might mean that maybe you were kind of thinking about doing a business and you get some different ideas. It's time to explore those ideas a little bit, just do kind of a surface look at those through maybe some videos or, talking to somebody who's in that industry so that you can get more of an idea of what that is. And as you do, more ideas come, more money opportunities happen. And so that's how you activate that energy. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Venus is not making an aspect with Mars. And so everything is about the same as usual. It looks like what's happening is that you are going back into the past, maybe and analyzing some of the decisions you made or some of the processes you have and seeing how you can make those better. So it looks like you're making about the same as usual. It is not a time to cash in on something at the moment. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, and that would be money from a paycheck, it's an entirely different story because Venus is making a square to Uranus, and that means that you need to focus on what you can change to get more money in your job. Now, that might mean changing jobs, but it also might mean changing tactics when you're discussing a raise with your supervisor. And so that might mean going out on YouTube and watching some videos on negotiation, specifically in job situations, so that you can find ways to connect with your supervisor where they're able to take what you say to their supervisor to pave the way for that raise. Now, it does show, because there's an aspect, and it's such a strong aspect, that you do have the potential to make more money over this 2-week period, and that might mean getting more hours, getting better sales, but also you could make great headway on asking for a raise. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is not making an aspect with the sun. However, Venus is in that house. And so we do see that there is a lot of interest in this area. And while the profits seem to be about the same as usual, it looks like you're making progress generally in this area. And that is that if this is buying a franchise, then you're moving the process forward. If this is some creative project you're working on, you are moving things forward incrementally, making things better because of this Virgo new moon. It also can mean that some new component has come in that you're integrating into the process. So while I see you making about the same as usual, you are making progress. Okay, Taurus, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of creative expression, also risk-taking and adventure. We'll talk about how that deals with money in a second. And this is also about children, fertility, and romance. We'll talk about the romance in a second. And this is making that square to Mars in your house of money. So you may be focused very much on the money situation and how that is bringing you resources or a lack thereof to do the things that you want to do. But the real solution lies in looking at the problem from a more creative standpoint and looking at what you can do to shift your mindset about it, but also to look for creative ways to gather the resources that you need. So this also may be that you are getting together with kids to say, hey, what else, can I do? I can't think of all of the ideas myself, and you kids, you're young, you're the different generation. What ideas do you have for me where I can solve some financial problems? Or this is maybe that you have to tell the kids, I can't give you as much financial support to you, especially when they're out of the house and all that. You might be giving them a lot of financial support. And you have to say, ooh, I have to cut that back in the near future. And so what can we do to brainstorm some ideas? And so this is you kind of giving birth to new ideas to help a financial situation. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making a semi-square to Mercury. Now, that is a difficult aspect. However, you do have the new moon in that house. And so what this is indicating is that maybe there's a little bit of a hurdle for you. Perhaps that's emotionally, that you maybe haven't felt really ready to get back into something, or perhaps it has just been difficult because you've been busy, or that you're not clear about how to attract the person that you're looking for, that you really want in your life. And so there is that semi-square. The semi-square does say that the success comes when you take some and do something proactively. You need to do something. But the new moon does say that there is some new possibilities, and so that lines up perfectly with new love. And so I really encourage you to go out and do something, meet new people, let other people fix you up on dates, or try some online dating, because this energy could be very good for you. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. And all there is right now is that south node in the 7th house. And so that's indicating that you're either in a routine, or maybe you've even slipped back into some old behaviors, but it's not bad enough to, have a discussion about, or basically you don't have the energy there to have a really helpful discussion. So any discussions that are happening are just repeats or rehashes of previous discussions. And so if you're trying to really make some headway on your love relationship, this energy is rather difficult because there's nothing here to grab hold of. And so you may want to wait until outside this 2-week period to have any real deep discussions with your partner. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is not making an aspect with the sun, but Venus is in that house. So that says that there are some good things happening when it comes to family and extended family, that there may be some sort of party or celebration going on. With that new moon in the 5th house, perhaps somebody is announcing a pregnancy or an adoption, or they're getting a puppy or something like that. So there can be some reason to celebrate, and that it looks like it's going on in your home. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury in your house of work, and Mars is still in your house of money. I shouldn't say still. It's going to be there until, I think, late March. And so like an extraordinarily long period of time for having Mars going through a particular sign. So this really bodes well for you financially for a long period of time. But what the Mercury is saying is it's time to take some of your ideas and implement them. And that might be that you are doing the smallest amount possible to move it forward because you're very busy, you have other things to do, or you're just testing the waters. But this says that it's time to take some incremental steps in the direction you want to go. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury's making an opposition to Jupiter, so it's very likely that you'll make more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. I don't know what more to say about that. Since I've given you good news, I'll just leave it at that. Now, when it comes to money from your career, so that would be like a paycheck, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune, but it's out of sign. So when we have an out of sign aspect, it means that it may not be so obvious how you are going to make this additional money. And so with Mercury in the house of work, it may be because of more hours or some sort of bonus structure based on your performance. It's not necessarily so direct as, here's a raise, but it does look like you can make more money over the next 2 weeks. And then finally, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mercury is making a semi-sextile to that new moon energy, and it's making a lovely trine to the Mars. So the trine to Mars says you can move forward. It looks like you can make more money in one of these areas this time. However, that semi-sextile reminds you to look at the details. It's the details that are going to bring you the profits, and that is maybe spotting something in a contract that needs to be changed, or doing the final details before you launch something new, such as your album or script or an art project. So there's some detail you have to find, and when you do, you can make more money. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of home and family. This is also foundations and your upbringing. It is also, and we don't talk about this very often, it's also how you finish things or end things. And this is making an exact square to Mars in your own sign of Gemini. Now, Mars went into Gemini on August 20th, and it is going to stay there until March 25th, 2023. That's an extraordinarily long time for Mars to be in a sign. And of course, you know why this is because it's going retrograde in Gemini, which gives you lots and lots of time having Mars, this planet of power and confidence and energy and activity, in your first house. So that's going to affect your physical self as well as your relationships. So what's happening now is you may feel very frustrated with relationships in general or how you are responding to things. But the square to the new moon says that the actual issue lies in some sort of family pattern, maybe something from your upbringing, maybe something that happened that you haven't reconciled, or maybe you're needing to forgive yourself and let go of something from the past. Maybe you need to, cut ties with something or a situation that happened and to allow you to move on. This also may say, like we were talking about the finishing things, is like, what can you finish? What can you be done with? What can you then move on from? And that's going to help with all of these frustrations that you're having, either with yourself or with your partner. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is making a semi-square to Venus. But Mercury is in your house of romance, so that's lovely. But a semi-square does say that there's some sort of obstacle you have to get over, and maybe it's just a natural hesitation about online dating or dating in general. But there's something that if you push yourself, if you kind of grit your teeth and go do it, you're going to be quite happy with the results. But there's going to be lots and lots of procrastination possible, or obstacles that come up for you, or things that just slow down this process right now. So you could wait until this aspect lines up better, but if you're really wanting to take action now, you can, and you're going to get better results than you expect. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter, so there is a lot of interaction going on in your current, with your partner. It is, there's a need to compromise. You don't want to take opposite sides and not look for what you have that's the same. But there is a chance of harmony in the opposition, and that is where you come together and say, all right, we have these things in common. These are the common goals we have. These are the things that are alike. And then you can find ways around the differences. So I do see that the relationship can not just be okay, but get stronger. And that's because you're working to find the middle ground. Now, when it comes to home and family, the new moon is sitting there. So there is something new going on. Mercury is making a semi-sextile to that new moon. And so there's a lot of details that you're handling, a lot of things that seem slightly irritating, but you have to work those out. It might be that there's small things that need to be fixed at home, or that you're trying to get somebody in, but they keep changing the time on you. But there is this ability to come together to have a positive solution, but you have to watch those details, and that is, you can't take something for granted right now when it comes to home and family. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that new moon right in that house of home and family. And so, first of all, of course, that does rule real estate. So maybe you are finding some way to invest in real estate, and it might be beyond the traditional ways of investing in real estate. I've been surprised at how many different ways there are to invest in real estate. But this also could be that you are pooling together resources with family members to do a more traditional way of investing. And so you do have an opportunity to do that. This is also about having a business at home. And so you might be looking at, not just, like the home arbitrage that they talk about, like renting out a room or something like that, but just doing a little business at home where you set up an office for yourself and, you give yourself maybe space for inventory if that's necessary. And that all of those things have potential for money for you that you're starting at this point. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're making about the same as usual. The moon is not making an aspect with Saturn. And so I do see Saturn still up in that house of government contracts, paperwork, or professional paperwork. And so maybe there is some things that you have to do about that. With that moon that's down in your house of home and family, perhaps this is that you are shifting something about the location that you work in for your business. So maybe you're moving some of the operations home, maybe you're moving it from one office to another. So you're making about the same as usual. When it comes to money derived from your career, which would be like a paycheck, you have a very strong moon square Mars, and Jupiter, of course, is still in that house. So this is your time to ask for the raise, ask for more money, go seek another job. Like, you can do a lot of negotiations now and get something better. And so that is everything from getting a raise to, working out a different commission schedule, or finding a way to work less hours, but for the same money. So there's several opportunities for you to make more money than usual. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is not making an aspect with the moon. And though Mercury is going through this house now, it does mean that you're getting some new information, and that new information could change the trajectory of your project or your investment. So this is just a time to be paying attention. This Mercury is going to go retrograde next month. And so if you have not found what this information is, you're going to find it out quite soon. So you want to keep that in mind. Okay, Cancer, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of communication, and this includes how you talk to yourself, also the communications you have with others. This is also about siblings and neighbors and forms of transportation, but I think that this time it's mostly centered on communication, and this is making a square to that Mars in your house of hidden things, but also the ways that you can hide. So that is escapes, addictions, different ways that you find to retreat from society. So you might be very frustrated with yourself that maybe you've started doing a pattern that you have thought you let go of and it's back, or maybe you have had very disturbed sleep, you don't feel like you're resting, haven't felt well, all of these things. But the real issue, because of the square, is actually how you are communicating with yourself, either about the situation or just in general. And so that can be the communication that is why does this always happen to me? Or why do I have to go through this again? Those types of questions versus what's a different way to solve this problem? Or what is this problem trying to tell me about my life? Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's not making an aspect to Pluto. Plus, the only thing you have going through this house right now is the South Node. And so it's more likely that you're either just thinking about somebody from the past, or the new person you meet is so much like the person from the past, it's going to pull you into the same type of situation. And so this is a time where, shifting thinking process, shifting even like what you were saying in your online profile, making those types of changes helps you see somebody new, but I think it's going to be outside this 2-week period. And then when it comes to existing love relationships, that moon is not making an aspect with Saturn. So again, most of this energy this time looks like it's more about you and treating yourself well, having good conversations with yourself, not berating yourself, not criticizing yourself, and treating yourself as well, especially as you treat so many other people, which, you're Cancer. So you do that. You're trying to comfort people and love people and all that, and you have to do that for yourself as well. And then when it comes to home and family, the moon's not making an aspect with Venus. And so therefore, again, not a lot of energy there. Much more energy in some of the self-care areas. And then also there's some energy coming up that we'll talk about. So hold that thought. Now, when it comes to your money, this is where things start to get exciting because you are pulling money from that sun, which is making that exact square to Mars. And so, first of all, it looks like the universe is giving you ideas everywhere you turn. So if you are in the mindset of looking for money-making opportunities, whether that be a new job, a business, a passive income source, a resource in general, the universe is here trying to give those to you. And it does look like you are also yourself having a lot of ideas. And so a lot of these will be implemented over time, but this is the time where the seeds can be planted. So this is very good energy. Then when it comes to traditional investments and money derived from your business, you're making about the same as usual. There's no aspect between the sun and Uranus, but these two will line up for your payday later. It looks like more that you're looking at, how, like the words on your website, how you are conveying your message, what kind of marketing materials you're putting out there. And so you might be marketing a new product, or perhaps you're in the studio working on the new product. And so there are opportunities coming up, but you're making about the same as usual for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, which would be like a paycheck, again, no aspect between the sun and Venus, but Venus is in a money house. It is in the money house. And so there is some sort of forward movement here. I think that you could get a raise or negotiate for a higher salary when you are looking for a job. I think that the actual money arrives outside the 2 weeks, but with that Venus, which is still in your money house, I think that is a good time to make the request, and maybe they put you off for a month or two, but at least it's in the works. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. The sun's not making an aspect to Pluto, but it is in your house of contracts. So I'm expecting that maybe you're in that contractual phase of buying a business, or maybe you are launching something and you are reading the terms and agreements of the platform or setting up the platform. If this is more investment related, I think that you're just kind of keeping an eye on the market. So it looks like you're making about the same as usual. This is not the time for the big payday. It's also not necessarily a time for a gigantic launch, but a soft launch could happen as you're doing some market testing with that new moon in your house of communication. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money and self-worth, and it's making an exact square to that Mars, which is up in the house of friendships, community, technology, and the future. And so you might be very frustrated now thinking that you're not getting support from friends and the community. Maybe you are blocked by something regarding technology. Maybe something is, you don't know how to do it. Maybe it's just not working. Maybe there's this idea that it's going to take a lot of technology to get where you want to be, and you don't know where to start. Or this is just where you're so focused on the day-to-day, it's hard to look at the bigger picture and look at the future. But what this square is indicating is that where the center of the problem is in how you're feeling about yourself, how you're feeling about your worthiness, letting go of self-recrimination, letting go of guilt, letting go of where you are being so hard on yourself, and which sets up this idea that you're not deserving of all this abundance that can happen. This also can be around taking a look at your finances and finding out, where you can manage the money differently, or maybe move the money around a little bit more. Or this could indicate that there are other sources of income or different ways for you to make money than what you were thinking. And so because this is a Virgo moon, it's really asking for you to drill down into the details. So if you say to yourself, well, this won't work, then figuring out what component of it won't work versus just ditching the whole thing. You also want to do the opposite of that as well. If you are saying something absolutely is going to work, then it's time to drill down to look at the different pieces that could still break or go wrong so that you can be ready for whatever those are. And so you might say that you're going to launch a new product, and this product, that all of these components are great, everything's working. But maybe it is that you need to really look at some A/B testing for the marketing that you're doing. So that A/B testing, where you send out one and see if that one works, send out another, see if that one works. And there's different automated ways to do that through email marketing and sometimes through placing ads on social media. So that's just an example. It is looking at something that you can feel very confident about, but saying, is the entire structure sound? Is there something, like if something's going to break, what's that thing? And how can I get that shored up as I go forward? Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun's making an inconjunct to Jupiter. And while an inconjunct's not a great aspect, it is an aspect. And it does mean that maybe when you're least expecting it, you get to meet somebody, and perhaps you don't have time at the moment to really explore the relationship, so it's good to exchange contact information. Or maybe somebody is reaching out to you and wants to make your acquaintance, but you are uncertain about whether this person is your type or that there is some sort of connection between you. So it looks like right now what's happening is you could meet someone, but they're different than you were expecting or thinking that you wanted. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun is not making an aspect with Uranus. And so some of that means that your focus is elsewhere. And we do see that very strongly with your new moon in your first quadrant. And that is that more about self-care rather than caring for others. So it also can mean that the two of you are just, in your own worlds, doing your own thing, that there's a division of labor at home. And so you're not having the time or maybe the energy right now to really dig into deeper issues. So I see the relationship going basically as it usually does. And so that's for this 2 weeks. So, and when it comes to home and family, the sun's not making an aspect to Pluto. The south node is the only thing in that house, that fourth house. And that means that right now, everything is kind of just as it has been. In fact, it can slip into some old habits and some old patterns. And so that's the harder side of that. But in general, what I'm thinking is going on is that you are maybe cleaning out some old stuff that you have, maybe doing a little bit of decluttering, maybe looking through pictures or memorabilia from the past. There just seems to be this idea that you're stepping back into the past. maybe you're just watching a really old TV show in the evenings and it's causing you to remember your upbringing, etc. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury in your house of ideas. And so lots and lots of ideas are coming. Now, it's really interesting because this Mercury is going to go retrograde, which indicates that some of these ideas, you've had them before, and they're coming back to you for a second look, or that you may not be able to work on some of these ideas right now, but you may get a chance to work on them during the retrograde period. And that retrograde period, I think, is September 9 to October 2nd. So I'll try and remember to put that in the notes so you can see that. But the energy here is many, many ideas. You may not have time to work on them, so make sure that you write them down. By the way, of course, with the new moon there, new money opportunities are also possible. But again, you may not be able to work on them until either during the retrograde or after the retrograde. Now, when it comes to money from your traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune. It's an out-of-sign opposition, so that means that the profits that you're receiving, which could be more over this 2-week period, are not from maybe traditional sources, or they may come from something unexpected. Now, that means that maybe this is coming from a one-time purchase people are making, or some sort of bonus you're getting, or a refund that's coming in. So something is coming, and it's not the typical way that you make extra money, but you could make extra money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money from your job, so that would be money derived from career, Mercury is making a plethora of aspects, plus Mars is in that house. And so in Gemini, which rules Mercury. So there's enough here to say that you have a great opportunity either to get a new job and negotiate for a higher salary, or to negotiate for a higher salary in the job you're in. You have different tactics that you can take. You have different people you can talk to. There is a lot of different avenues for you. And there's a lot of different avenues in which the company could give you more quote unquote money. And that might be through extra perks or stock or discounts or things like that. So this is a good time. I do expect you to be making more money over the next 2 weeks. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter. So this is, again, a big opportunity for you to gather some profits from one of these sources. Now, this might mean that it's time to launch your small business or your products or one of your services. This might be that you are getting involved to buy a business. So, of course, with risky investments, there is risk. And so do be careful. These are very volatile times. This is a tiger year. And so markets can just swing quite wildly. I think lately the tiger's been a little bit of like sleeping, taking a little cat nap. So, but at any moment the tiger could wake up and there could be big swings. So you always want to protect yourself from the downside, especially in risky investments. Okay, Virgo, this is your new moon, which means that you are starting your new 12-month lunar year. And so you want to take all the time for the next 4 weeks and plant as many seeds as you can. And that is try new things, consider new ideas, look at different ways of doing things, because all of the seeds that you plant over the next 4 weeks could result in a big harvest in the future. And so that's why it's so important when you're doing your new moon time that you do a lot of energy. And I'm extending that to 4 weeks, so because that is the lunar month that is covered by this new moon, even though we do these videos in 2-week increments. Now, this new moon is getting an exact square to Mars, which also you're going to have that sort of energy follow you for the year, which means that you are going to be quite energetic, doing a lot of new projects and things. There's so many opportunities coming for you over the course of the next 12 months. Now, this, though, for this 2-week period, that Mars up in your house of career could make you feel very frustrated with your current career, frustrated with a supervisor, just feeling a little bit maybe like you can't really explore the things that you want to do. But the true issue is back with that new moon, where you might not be feeling confident, where you think some sort of piece in your education is missing, or you feel a piece in your experience is missing, or you keep trying to shore things up for fear that somebody is just going to say no to you, when you could recognize that when somebody says no, it just means this is not a fit, and that you can move on to something else and find that fit. So this is where you're going to take the energy that's external, that's frustrating you, and look at what you can shift inside, and then the block or obstacle in front of you will just melt away. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is not making an aspect with Saturn, which is interesting because Mercury is making a lot of aspects. This is about the only planet it's not aspecting. And so what that's saying is that while you are planting all these seeds, maybe new love is such a distraction that it's just not good for your path right now. So it says that if it's at all possible, at least put this off for 2 weeks. And not have it be this huge focus in your life. That might mean going back and looking at what your profile looks like on your online dating site, or maybe going back and looking at past relationships and what went right and what went wrong. And the reason that you would be going back, of course, is because Mercury is going retrograde, and that will mean it is appropriate to look back and see what you've learned, what you can change before you move forward. So, all that said, finding new love over the next 2 weeks is challenging, and so you may want to just put it off. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune. It's out of sign, and so that means that the opportunities to connect and to be closer to your sweetheart are not so ordinary. This could mean that you are thrown into some extraordinary circumstances, like you're on vacation, and so you're outside of your usual comfort zone, or maybe you're interacting with other couples and you get to see how other couples interact, and so you get that sudden burst of new information so that you can apply that to your own relationship. But you have an opportunity to strengthen this relationship over the next 2 weeks. And then when it comes to home and family, Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter. That means there's a lot of activity going on. And it's interesting because there's nothing going on in the house itself. And I don't want to confuse you. I mean the area of the chart, not the dwelling. And so that means that this is more about the interpersonal relationships that are happening with family members, that maybe some people are on one side and you're on the other side, and you're finding compromise, you're finding things that you can talk about, even if you're on opposite aisles or different sports teams or different religions. You're finding things in common to help you solidify or strengthen that relationship that is either the people you live with or extended family. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is actually hidden in your 12th house. And that says, do the spiritual things, do the meditation, do the visualization, do the affirmations, do the feng shui, placing the cures, enhancing the front door area to bring in new money. Do all of those mystical and magical things. Those are going to have the strongest effect on bringing you more money at this time. At the same time, Mercury is in this house, and as it goes forward, it will soon change directions and then go out of this house. And so something that you feel is really solid may slip from your fingers temporarily, but it will be back. And so that could be a job opportunity, a business opportunity. It might feel like it's going to happen, and then it doesn't. Don't get disappointed. It just needs to regroup and come back to you, and it will. although it may come in a different form. So it's when I say it comes back to you, because it's regrouping, because it's shifting in some way, it may look different when it arrives. But that's the purpose of the retrograde, is so that it can, like we can make adjustments and energies themselves can come together in a different way. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Venus is not making an aspect to Mars. Jupiter's in the house, so you're still protected. So you're making about the same as usual. But it looks like with that Venus in your 12th house that you're working behind the scenes, trying to work maybe on the infrastructure of the business, or maybe you are examining your different investments, but you haven't quite made the decision of how to, what to take profits on, how to diversify your portfolio, or you're not quite ready to launch your new website or your new product. And so you're making about the same as usual over this 2-week period. And then when it comes to money derived from career, which is like a paycheck, well, you have a good career house because Mars is right there, and you might receive some sort of job offer or like a promotion opportunity. Doesn't look like it's affecting the salary that much. And so you may have to do some negotiations. And what I would suggest is you try to expand that negotiations outside of this 2-week period. And you can use that retrograde Mercury to help you, where something might get delayed and all of that, because this is not lining up to give you that more money. And so you want to somehow wait until this lines up. Or if you are taking a new job or a new role, maybe you can say, hey, in 3 months, then we can sit down and talk about raises or things like that. So you set it out for the future. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is making an opposition to Saturn. So there is a chance of making more money over this 2-week period. Now, these would be modest gains because Saturn tends to restrict and make you work really hard, etc. And so this, though, could be a sign that where you're heading in this area, you're on the right track. It's kind of like little breadcrumbs that you're picking up, so you're finding the trail. But it is also, though, not to be taken for granted, while this Mercury, which is your sign ruler, is going to go retrograde. And so you may get a trickle now, and that trickle might stop. And then it won't restart until after Mercury goes direct and gets out of its shadow, etc. So you do want to still be quite cautious, especially when you're doing any sort of aspect with Saturn, which says pay attention, learn what you are really investing in, really understand it, be the authority of it. And that's what brings you then the riches, the opportunities, the success. Okay, Libra, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of intuition, magic, mysticism, but also where you have no boundaries, where you can escape, where you are maybe hiding from the world. And this is making a square to that Mars, which is in your house of spirituality, belief systems, the personal rules that you have for yourself, along with education, legal matters, and travel. And so you may be outwardly frustrated at some of the things that might feel like they're blocks, like that you can't go somewhere right now because maybe you have school starting or something, or that you have school and you're frustrated with the different aspects of school, or maybe there's a legal matter that is causing you some stress, or perhaps you are just trying to deal with some of the limiting beliefs that you have that you haven't been able to shake. But where we see your key to getting out of these is to look at that 12th house new moon, which could be almost like pulling you away into distractions, into escapes that are not that beneficial for you. So if you find that you are doing maybe a a bad habit more than you were before. Maybe you've slipped back into some old behaviors. Maybe you're just watching a lot of TV or playing a lot of video games, and you're not really confronting some of the issues that are at hand. This is where you have the ability to change it. Now, the plus about having that new moon there is that through prayer, meditation, things like yoga or Tai Chi, or, where you are really looking at your inner you can make huge breakthroughs where you can eliminate some of the limiting beliefs or shift your belief system entirely so that you recognize your amazing talents, your amazing abilities. So this is it feels sometimes like everything in the world seems kind of scary and you feel like just pulling away. But this, instead of pulling away from the outside world, instead kind of turn inward and look at what causes fear in you. How can you, with your rational thinking, talk yourself into a position of strength? Or what do you need externally to shore up your position? Where are you vulnerable, and what can you do to make yourself, less vulnerable? And so that's what this new moon is about. And it's a little less tangible than some of the others. And it's also a little bit time consuming. And yeah, that's really hard with Mercury about to go retrograde. So I can understand where you might feel a little frustrated by this. But again, even a small breakthrough when you're doing a meditation, when you are maybe doing some journaling about things that have happened in the past, even a small breakthrough can be so life-changing. When you suddenly realize, something about your relationship with your mom, or a relationship with a boss, or your relationship with yourself. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making a square to Uranus, so you have a big opportunity here to meet somebody, fall in love, to find somebody in a completely unexpected place, or to fall for somebody who's not necessarily the type of person that you have gone for in the past. So there is some really interesting energy here about a chance meeting with somebody, or maybe allowing somebody to set you up on a date and you really hit it off with this person. So if you're looking for love, you want to be active in this area over this next 2 weeks. And when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Mars. Jupiter is there, however, and so the energy is available to work on. But what I think might happen is, as this Mercury moves forward, then stops to turn retrograde, over this 2-week period, that you might slip into some old argument or some old difficulty that you have with your partner. And so you want to be very cognizant that you don't, get back into an old argument if at all possible. And so in general, like if you can stay above that energy, then this relationship moves forward at about the same pace as it has been. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is making an opposition to Saturn. So there's definitely family members coming together, trying to work out something, trying to find some sort of compromise. It looks like there may be kind of an age difference. So it's like older relatives versus younger relatives, so that something is trying to be worked out between grandparents and parents and kids. You might be older than your siblings, and so you're trying to work out something with them. But it looks like that's where the dynamic is where, the older saying, we have the experience, we know, and the younger saying, I want to go try this, I want to go do something. And so there's some points of contention, but there's an opportunity for some real compromise too happening. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Pluto. Of course, we've talked about that many times, going through your 4th house of home, family, and real estate. But we mostly focus on that Mars, which changes so often. And this one's making an exact square to that new moon. And so this indicates that something new is coming, some new opportunity, some new idea, and you can take hold of this to maybe start a business or find another revenue source. So some very exciting energy. This is very active energy. You might be signing papers or trying to get some sort of contract in place right away. So of course, Mercury is going retrograde on September 9. And so it would be great if it's possible to get all that paperwork stuff done before Mercury goes retrograde. And if that's not possible, then you may have to wait outside this 2-week period to get this thing going. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're making about the same as usual, as Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto, nor is it making an aspect with Mars. And so there's energy here that says it's kind of just the same as usual. The interesting thing is Uranus is going through this house for you. So in a bigger picture, you're making changes. You are looking at how money is diversified in your life, perhaps, or how your business is diversified. Where are the different sources of income, or diversifying just the number of clients you have, going from maybe a lot of dependence on 1 or 2 clients or 1 or 2 suppliers and then branching out. But in general, I think you're making about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, while the sun is not making an aspect to Pluto, it is making an aspect to Mars. I have to look. I forgot what it was. It's making a square, of course. It's part of the new moon. I've been talking about it for hours now. So yes, the sun's making a square to Mars. This is an extraordinary opportunity for you to go and ask for more money or ask for additional perks. This is the time to find your boss and have that conversation. This is something that, while it may extend into that retrograde time, that is okay. Getting a raise during Mercury retrograde is a good thing because the retrograde energy tends to repeat things. So you always want to do things you want to repeat on a retrograde. And so don't worry about the timing on that. But there is a good opportunity for making more money through your career over the next 2 weeks. Okay, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. So Pluto is not making an aspect to Uranus, nor is Pluto making an aspect to Mars, and Saturn also. Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn. There's no aspect going on. And that means that everything is just ticking along, business as usual, but it's very difficult to take profits right now. And so if you are thinking about launching your business or launching something, now, 1, you're not doing an aspect, and 2, we're getting awfully close to the retrograde. So at the best, you could do a soft launch and then think about something bigger happening maybe in October. So, but if this is something about risky investments, this may be a time where you just step back and watch what other people in the marketplace are doing, because it may not be time for you to take action, and it's difficult for you to make large profits at this time in this area. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of the future, technology, as well as friendships and community. And it's making a perfect square to that Mars in your area of resources, investments, and those really deep connections that you can have. So this is where your point of frustration could be. You might not feel like you have enough resources to do the things that you want, or you may not feel like you really can have somebody in your life that you can trust to give you the right information, or for you to vent, and say, this is where I'm upset. So, but this goes back to that new moon energy, which is about building community. And that's your key out of this frustration, is how can you build community? And that might be through some sort of technology means. So that is, your best friend lives on the other side of the country. You don't get to see this person very often, but you can communicate through Zoom on a regular basis. Or that through technology, you can find groups and like-minded people. And so this is something, like I go back and forth about this idea of we want a variety of opinions in our life, but we do also want to be around supportive people. And that is, people who not necessarily think exactly like we do, but have shared interests. This also is your house of the future, and so making a list or maybe even a vision board of what it is that you want to attract helps you bring in the resources that you need to make it happen. So you go from maybe a vague, I need more money, to I need this many dollars for this specific project. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, besides that almost permanent sextile that you're doing between Neptune and Pluto, which gives you opportunities every single time, you do have that new moon in your house of friendships. So going out with the idea of making new friends could bring a new love relationship to you, or you can talk to your friends about who their friends are and expand your circle that way, and again, help you meet somebody new. So you have good energy as always, but now you have even better energy. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. So there's stuff that you're both doing. You may not be coming together and being on the same page. It's like you have strong opinions, they have strong opinions, and it's not even that you're clashing, although you have that Uranus still in that house. You're going to have that a long time. And so that is for finding a way to coexist with someone who has very different ideas than you have. So that is that you might be finding all of these friends out in the world, and they may be filling in some of the gaps or checking some of the boxes that you need that your partner can't really fulfill. And, and there could be various reasons for that. Maybe you're just not into sports and this person really is. And so, then you have something to do, and then they can find their friends to watch sports with, and you can still maintain a very happy relationship. So right now, you're not doing an aspect to make this relationship stronger. So you are basically both doing your own thing. And then when it comes to home and family, you're also not doing an aspect there. And so it might be that, like everybody's back in school, and so, or everybody's rushing around doing that energy. But because there's no aspect, it is basically business as usual, so that you know how to do this. You've sent kids off to school before, and so you have all of that basically together, like you get the backpacks, here's the lunch, off you go, and so forth. So while it might feel a little bit chaotic, and in actuality you have Saturn there, so you probably have a good handle on even that. There's not extra energy this time because your attention is elsewhere. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Jupiter that is in your house of work and routines. So this says, and I probably have talked about this before, that setting up some sort of routine for yourself where maybe you take a big project and you break it down into very small steps, so that if you only have 5 minutes to work on your side business or to get better at your skill set, you can get that in each day. Now, this Jupiter is making an inconjunct to that new moon energy, and so it's suggesting that you make some adjustments, and that might mean reorganizing your home office or looking at your business plan, your personal business plan, and saying, what kind of adjustments should I make? Or you may be having some new ideas that right now feel way outside your comfort zone, but these ideas may come back when Mercury goes retrograde in September, and that will then, as it comes back, you'll get to relook at it and say, oh, maybe it's not so far out of my comfort zone as I thought. Now, when it comes to traditional investments and money from your business, you look like you're making more money than usual because Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter, plus Mars is in that house. And when that happens, that means that there's a lot of activity that you can do. There are people who need a call back, and maybe they become customers. There's maybe items you need to ship to people, or maybe this is something that you're doing with your investments and you can play a very active role. So really good energy for you for the next 2 weeks. And then when it comes to money derived from career, the news is even better because the new moon is happening in that house. And that means that you have an opportunity for some fresh start with, maybe it's a new manager, and so you can go to them and say, hey, I've been working really hard, and so I want more money. Maybe this is a brand new position, and so you're just getting settled into a new job or a new role, and so that is coming with new money. So there are definitely some opportunities to make more money in your career over the next 2 weeks. And then finally, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Jupiter's not yet making that aspect with Neptune. They're not in the same sign right now. So the Jupiter is still traveling through your house of working routines. So this is more, you are working on the back end of this situation or this project, or, like you're writing your novel. So it's not quite yet time to launch. That time is coming, though, pretty soon if you needed a deadline. And this is also that in some riskier investments, you might be in a holding pattern while the market settles down. So this energy will improve as we go forward in the year, but right now it mostly says that you're making about the same as usual. Okay, Sagittarius, you guys are doing this new moon right at the top of your chart. So it is just shining there, a beacon in your house of career and reputation. It's making that exact square to Mars in your house of partnerships, collaborations, and relationships. And so you may be feeling a little irritated, either that somebody has promised to help open some doors for you and they haven't done it yet, or you may feel that your partner is holding you back in some way because, they don't want to move forward in the direction you're going, or they just want to stay home and watch TV and that tempts you. Or it's also possible that you feel like other people have these great mentors or influencers that help them out, and you're not finding that. But this all comes back to the new moon that says you need to put yourself out there more. You right now have an opportunity to be seen, and that is, if you post your resume, or if you go into the boss to talk to them, or if you're even wanting to do this through dating, you can be seen now. That means to meet new people for a love relationship. So there's all of this energy. And so instead of saying, I'm not succeeding because people aren't coming to help me, it is putting yourself out there, showing the world what you can do and who you are. And that attracts the help that you need. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mars is making a sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter is in your house of romance, that fifth house where it can be fun and pleasurable, and, I think pleasurable and fun kind of sums it up. So this is a sextile, and a sextile means that if you take an action, then some good things can happen. That means you need to initiate. So not waiting by the phone, not waiting to, see if some better people come up on your online dating feed. This is you going out and looking, and you going out and contacting people, and that's when new love happens. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, you have a lot of energy going on right now because Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter, plus that Mars that figures so prominently in this new moon is in that house. So that means that you need to actively think about what it is you want out of your existing love relationship. What would you like to change? What would you like to suggest to the person that you're in a relationship with? And what are you willing to do differently? All of these things could come together to really strengthen this relationship. There is going to be some compromise because you're doing an opposition. So you're on one side, they're on the other, and you're finding the things in the middle that are shared beliefs and shared goals. And then from there, you will find more and more in common. So you really have a great opportunity to come together in a stronger relationship with your partner over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to home and family, Neptune is not making an aspect to Jupiter, but Neptune is in that house. And so there's a little bit of activity going on. I think that now that Jupiter is retrograde and heading back towards that house, you see increased activity. So maybe you're thinking about moving in the future, it hasn't quite come up yet. It's also possible that now that kids are maybe going off to school every day, or maybe just gone away to school, that you have now some breathing space where you can think about what you want to do with this house. So, but I don't think that action is happening yet because there's no aspect, but there may be something that comes up in the next few weeks or months. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn in your house of communication. Now, Saturn is going to get an opposition from Venus. And so this is very much about the ability to work long and hard on important projects that bring you a lot of emotional satisfaction. And so, I mean, and that's kind of how things work. When you find something that you really love to do, you're willing to do the extra effort on it, and this could bring you that type of project. It also says that as you focus on something, you like it more, and that is, as you get better at something, as you get, go from the apprentice stage to the authority stage, you begin to enjoy it more. And so that is maybe something you were working on before as a money-making idea. As you work on it and really hone your skills, it becomes more enjoyable. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're making about the same as usual, as Saturn is not making an aspect to the moon, but the moon is quite elevated. So your stuff is easy to see. What you're doing out there is visible. You can also get information on the investments. You can find out stuff about the plans of the CEO for the future, or the trajectory of the company itself. So, but you're not actually collecting the profits over this 2 weeks because we don't see an aspect. So you are getting information and you are visible, so you may be getting more clients, but the actual profits are coming outside the 2 week period. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, you both have Mercury in that house and Venus is making an opposition to Saturn. So it is possible for you to come to some sort of agreement for more money. Now, with the new moon in your 10th house of career, it's possible you just got a new job and so therefore you're negotiating for an increase. Or you got a new position in your current company, and so that's going to come with more money. This energy is quite good for getting you a raise, getting you more hours, or getting you some sort of extra compensation. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn. So basically, you are just moving along in the process. You're not at the finish line yet. Now, Mars, of course, very, very active in this new moon energy, could bring someone who's going to bring you some interesting information or some extra insights, or wants to partner with you on a venture. So you could move forward in that way, but I think that the profits aren't quite here yet. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of education, also legal matters, travel, but most importantly, it's your belief system. It is the rules that you have for yourself. And it is, of course, a question whether you made those rules yourself. You decided what those rules would be, or you adopted somebody else's set of rules when you were much younger. So that is always the question, and that's how we get limiting beliefs, is where we arbitrarily adopt somebody else's rule. Now, this new moon is making an exact square to Mars in your house of daily routines, health, and well-being. And so this is where the point of frustration is, where you may not feel like you're getting a lot done, you may not be feeling like you're taking care of your health, or you may have health issues. So you might have this limiting belief that says that you have to finish whatever's on your plate, or that you hate leftovers, or that you hate exercise, like any of these types of beliefs. And you know, when you look at your chart, that might not be supported in your chart, that you hate exercise. It might just be something that you adopted for some reason. And so when you look at your chart, you might find that you could really excel through exercise or something like that. And it's the same with, a limiting belief like saying you're not organized, when you might look at some areas of your life and find that they are quite organized and that there's only specific areas where you are struggling. So this is how you are going to get yourself on the right track by shifting a belief versus shifting a behavior. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making an opposition to Saturn, and so there could be some romance here. Venus is going through your house of intimacy, and so this might be someone with whom you want to get physical with. It's possible this is a short-term relationship because it is so physical. However, because it's an opposition with Saturn, there's a chance it could, grow into something that's long-term. But while Venus is traveling through this house and making this lovely aspect, it's really good to go out and meet new people, put up your online dating profile, because this is good energy for you. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon is not making an aspect with Saturn. And so that is saying that your focus is elsewhere. And, that's a lot of what we were talking about, is more about your beliefs, what is your personal philosophy. And so you and your partner just seem to be kind of moving along at the same pace that you were before. Maybe not, interacting as much, maybe because you're very busy. So, and when we come out of this, when that Venus does line up, then there'll be an opportunity to discuss some issues or to get closer in the relationship. But right now, the relationship's just going along as usual. And then when it comes to home and family, Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn. And so basically same thing. Everybody seems to be going off in different directions. There seems to be a lot of activity at home because Jupiter's there, but it's making that inconjunct to the new moon. And so there's a lot of energy of adjusting and new routines, and this person's here now and that person's doing that now. And so it's mostly so much caught up in the flurry of activity that's what's really important right now, versus, really digging into those personal relationships with family members. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money both from that Uranus, which is in your house of creativity, and the Saturn that is in your house of money. So you continue to have good money opportunities. Now, it sometimes can feel like these are outside of your comfort zone, and you really have to kind of chip away at figuring out how to do them. And you may come to a place where it's just such a big leap. And maybe that is, to go in and ask for a very big sale, or to jump into a business or something like that. And that's why this new moon up in your house of beliefs is where to start, and to look at your personal ideas of what your limits are. What can you achieve? It's oftentimes a lot of people can feel like, yes, I can picture myself having $1 billion. But they struggle with the idea of making double what they're making now. And so, as you can see, when it becomes $1 billion, it becomes unreal. But if they think about how to double what they have now, they think, well, I can't work that many hours, and I'd have to ask my boss for the raise. And so that's where the limitations come in. So this chart really kind of lends itself to looking at personal beliefs and shifting those, and that removes obstacles to making more money. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, so Venus is in that house, so you may be buying equipment or putting money out to get something. The sun's not making an aspect with Uranus, and so you are actually showing it, like if we're looking at your balance sheet, it's actually showing more outgo than income. Now, but this outgo is for a very good cause, and so I think that this is going to work out. But right now, it is more about building up your business or building up your investments versus taking profits. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, there is some opportunities, even though there's not an aspect between Uranus and Pluto, nor is there an aspect between Saturn and Mars. However, there is still some opportunities because we are seeing that Mercury very elevated in the chart. And so that is that some people are starting to think that you do deserve a raise, and yet that energy hasn't quite manifested yet. So I think that's coming up in a month or two, where someone can actually approach you and say, yes, I want to meet with you about you having more money. So, but it's not quite here yet. And then finally, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is making a square to Uranus. And then Venus is in a money house, Uranus is in a money house. So we've got a lot of activity going on. There is definitely some opportunities to take some profits. These are probably on different investments that you've had for a while. Or this is a time to consider launching, even if it's just a soft launch where you are making the announcement or maybe doing some pre-sales on a book or an album. But this is a time to consider, going forward. Now, it's quite possible, because of that Venus in that 8th house, that you're needing to expend some money to spend some money to get this off the ground. And that might be, like maybe you're buying an ISBN code, or you're paying someone to work on the album cover. So there might be a little bit of outgo here, but I do think that in this area, you may be making some profits over this next 2 weeks. Okay, Aquarius, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of power, control, also resources from others, and discovering the truth about things. And this is making that perfect square to Mars in your area of risk-taking, creativity, emotional expression, as well as, many other things. But those are the things I want to focus on right now. And so you might be feeling very irritated, maybe at yourself, about not taking more risks in your life, not going for the adventure, or maybe you just feel blocked in expressing yourself creatively or getting to express yourself emotionally, your true feelings. But where we see your key out of this is in that new moon, and looking at where your power is and what is in your control and what is outside of your control. And so this is for you to kind of determine in situations where you do have power. Now, that might be that you want to take a risk, like start a business, but you might not have the foundation that's strong enough to maybe keep you going while you don't have an income. And so then you would need to either do something part-time or establish that foundation. It's also like maybe you're wanting to ask somebody out on a date, but again, you're feeling like that's too big of a risk. And so then you might be thinking to yourself, well, if you ask someone out and they say no, it wouldn't be your preference, but it would certainly be survivable, and therefore the risk could be worth taking. So this is where you want to shift from this thing that you want to do, your creative work, or where you want to have more adventure in your life, and find out where your power is. And if you aren't powerful in the position, how can you gain power? Again, like having a strong foundation. So that's what this is about. I'm hoping that's clear the way I'm saying it, so that you understand that this is all about what's in your control, what's outside of your control, who has power, what is the power that you have in the situation. And from that standpoint, then you can go take the risks or express yourself emotionally and creatively. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate to Uranus. So a sesquiquadrate is a difficult aspect, especially to get it to work correctly. And so that is, you don't want to throw all of your time and energy into this project, because things, it's a bit of a long shot. And so this means that you might say yes to a date, but know that it's more probable this is not going to work out as a romance, but could work out as friendship or a business contact. Or if you are going and meeting a large group of people, the larger the group, the better, because you're doing energy that says it's possible, but it's not so easy. And so while it is still an aspect, and so you may want to take a chance, you also might want to wait until this lines up to be a little bit easier. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though the sun is not making an aspect to Uranus, Venus is in that house. And so you can come together for enjoyable projects, and that can work. If you're trying to do something difficult together, if there's some sort of struggle, it's not going to be helpful to the relationship. But if you're coming together to go to a party or to do something fun, you can actually help and strengthen the relationship. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is making a square to Uranus, and Uranus is in that house. So you have a lot of activity going on. You have for a while, but now it seems to be lining up. So this might mean that you are packing for a move, or you have just finished the move, so you're unpacking, or maybe you are working on some renovations in the house. Maybe it's because kids are going off to college, or they are now coming and going because of school, but there's seems to be a lot of disruption going on in the home, but there's a lot of things that you can do to smooth things out, get things organized, get things to feel better because you're doing that square, because it says that actions are happening, and then you have to respond, and in your response, things get better. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune that is in your house of money. It's still going to be there for a while. I think you have another year and a half or so. And then you're also pulling money energy from that Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is really in an interesting position because while we haven't talked about it too much in this session, what is going to be happening is Mars is going to make a nice sextile to it, and the Sun, Moon, that energy is going to make an inconjunct. So what this means is that something external is happening, which is causing you to feel either outside your comfort zone or you need to adjust. But then the action to take is quite easy because it's a sextile to Mars. So I think you're going to get some new business idea or some new money-making investment concept. And while it may not be this obvious straight shot, like from A to B, if you do a little zigzag, you will find that it actually works out quite well. So don't dismiss something just because it doesn't seem like there's a direct thing to do. Just kind of wait and see what emerges, because there is an opportunity. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you look like you're doing pretty well this time because the new moon is there, so that may mean a new investment or a new source of revenue for you. Additionally, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune. It is out of sign, and that does mean that maybe this is a one-off, one time you're making this profit, or that unusual circumstances have come together to give you a profit on something that's maybe more regular, but now you get a bump up because of this irregularity of it. But something is going on that is helping you make more money, so you want to keep your eyes open for what that is. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, like a paycheck, currently there's no aspect between Jupiter and Neptune, and there's nothing going on in that house. So you kind of have to wait and just bide your time. You do show there's some possibility, something new in that area of resources, because that's where the new moon is. So maybe your company has some new discount or some new perk that you can get. But to get to the place of actual money, we have to wait till either something's in that house or Jupiter comes back to line up with Neptune. Both of those things are going to happen later this year. And then finally, when we are considering risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. You've got a lot of energy here. So first of all, Mars is in that house, and it's making that direct square to the new moon. Plus, Mercury is making that out of sign opposition to Neptune. So there's definite possibilities for making more money in this area, or perhaps you were doing a big launch of your album or your video course or something you've been working on for a very long time, and you're getting some good results. So while you always still want to be cautious with risky investments, and especially because you're doing a square here, so there may be this desire to push forward very aggressively on it, and so be cautious. Risky investments mean that you should be being as conservative as you can with it, and so not putting your, all your money in, but only what you're willing to lose, etc. So, but I do see you making more money from this area over the next 2 weeks. Okay, Pisces, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of relationships, partnerships, collaborations, mentors, basically everyone who can come into your life. Now you have that new moon energy there. That means meeting new people, making new connections. And this is making that exact square to Mars that we've been talking about in this video. And that's right into your house of home and family. So you may be feeling like you're a little bit trapped at home. You might feel that, that you're not getting what you want from family members in the way of support and recognition for what you've done, and that sense of encouragement that you're looking for. And the solution is to go do that seventh house where the new moon is and go meet some new people or connect with friends in this area. Because sometimes, like family has this purpose, but sometimes they can't be everything to us. They can't be both the person who says, hey, watch out, but also be our cheerleader. It's just sometimes they can't be everything. And so right now, especially if you are looking for something that you're not getting from family, you want to go out into the world and look for friends and people to collaborate with, or people to learn from. And this is what this new moon is offering. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's not making an aspect to Neptune and the house is empty. Now, I will say your house of relationships is doing great. So, but this may be that you are thinking about someone from the past and Mercury is about to go retrograde. And so that could be that someone from the past is thinking about you and coming in. And that's why this doesn't feel as strong for meeting a new person for love, but maybe you are reestablishing with someone you've already met. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to existing love relationships, this is really good energy. The new moon is there. It's making a square to Mars, which is very active, very energetic. And when we look at the aspect, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune. Even though it's out of sign, it's still in opposition. And so opposition, like two different people coming together, finding what they have in common, finding where to compromise and connect. And so you're doing very good energy for strengthening your love relationship with your existing partner, or if you are bringing somebody into your life, say somebody from the past, maybe you dated once or twice and you're going to give it another try. This is really good energy for that as well. Now, when it comes to home and family, you have a very busy time ahead because you have that Mars, which is making the square to the new moon, plus Mercury is making that out of sign opposition to Neptune. So we have tons of activity going on. Maybe it's because kids are, coming and going now for school. Maybe you're in school and also working. Maybe you just finished moving and you're unpacking, or maybe you're finally unpacking the boxes from your move 2 years ago. There's some sort of activity going on. It does seem like there is an outside influence. So maybe somebody's coming into the home to do repairs or renovations. Maybe you have guests. So this is a busy time. This is where we see a lot of the energy happening in your life. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars that is making the square to the new moon. So something new is happening. And this could mean that somebody's just randomly walking up to you and giving you a business idea that you could really run with. Or you're out there on YouTube and you see some idea and you start to explore it. That Mars is out there collecting information, and that's probably the first thing that you would do is figure out this idea and then go ask a bunch of people and say, what do you think about this idea? And get the pros and the cons about it. So I see you really having a lot of ideas. You have Jupiter also in your house of money. It's been there for a bit and it's going to be there for at least a few more weeks. And so that is giving you expansion in the area of money. So again, more money opportunities. So this is a very good time to be looking at new ideas for making money. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or money from your business, you're making about the same as usual, because even though we've got Jupiter in your house of money and Mercury, which brings a lot of communication, there's no aspect going on between Venus and Mars. And so basically, it's like you get the promise of payment, or you get the person who signs up for your course, but you haven't got the money yet, or maybe they've paid, but the platform that you're on hasn't paid you yet. So the money is out there. It's on its way to you, but it's coming to you outside this 2-week period. So overall, I think you're making about the same as usual. Now, when we look at money derived from your career, so like a paycheck, there's no aspect going on between Mars and Saturn. And Saturn, of course, is in your 12th house, so it's a little bit hidden. And then Mars, right at the base of your chart here, it's not lining up right. So I think that maybe it's just difficult to get a hold of your boss to actually sit them down, or maybe they're saying, hey, there's so much going on out there in the world, we just have to wait on this. Now, overall, your longer term picture, and I should say this, basically for everyone, the longer term picture of job opportunities is going to continue to be really strong. So this will line up in a way where you're able to either get a new job or get a raise from your current job. So this is going to come together. It's just not coming together right now. So I think you're making about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is making a square to the moon. So that is a huge amount of energy happening and opportunities galore. So that means that this is something where if you're thinking about launching your product or your album, this is the time. That new moon is right out there in your house of other people. That's where you can start to bring people to you. If this is some sort of highly risky investment and leveraged and all of that, do be careful. It's risky investment for a reason, and that means don't risk money that you can't afford to lose. On the other hand, if you have some extra money and you want to roll the dice, this would be the time to do it, because you are showing some good possibilities in this area. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.